Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another show of Harmonics. I'm Gregory Correa, and I got a great guest. In my mind, he has been talked about with my friends. I have talked about him, and now I actually have him on my show. I'd like to welcome Danny Means. Danny Means.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here, sir.
It is totally
It's
good
awesome
to be
here with you.
Thank you, man.
I'm honored. Totally.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, Danny, so many people have told me about your playing. I did some study work on you, and you have played with numerous people. But I like to go back a little bit. We're going to start your early beginnings. Then we'll fly up into your, you're in your 20s or whatever. Tell me, how did you ever get involved in playing the guitar?
Well, back in my days growing up, San Diego, namely, I lived on a dead-end street in the country, and just so happened the two houses down at the end of the cul-de-sac and the dead-end street, this is in El Cajon, a suburb of San Diego, out in the country, basically. My best friend's mother played the guitar and had done some TV and radio things. And there was all, guitars just laying around the house. And so I, as with back then, this was before the Beatles came out. I started in about 60, 61. Again, we were mentioning or talking earlier about how, the Ink Spots, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doo-wop band, spent the night at my house when I was a little kid. I was about 5 or 6, and my dad brought them home because they couldn't get a room at the club where my mom was working. So Dad's all, hey, you guys can, come out, out to my house, and Ink Spots showed up. I think it was a black Cadillac, and they spent the night, and they joked and smoked and hung out on the back porch, and my sister and cousin fed them sandwiches. Yeah, I vaguely remember it, but it was like, wow, musicians, really? And hell, I didn't even know black people existed. I mean, I was like a stupid little, white kid living in the dead-end street in the country.
Wow, is that how that happened?
Yeah.
Well, so when is the first time that you actually picked up a guitar?
Well, it was around a little after that time because, I sort of, it's like with so many things when you're a little kid, they're all very peripheral, can be, and I just sort of like, oh, guitar, I'm like, da-da, B and E, da-da, that's Old Lang Syne, da-da, 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 da-da. So I go, well, that was easy.
Interesting.
So kind of like, oh. And then, back then, we all had the little stupid transistor radios.
Of course.
And they were playing, like Elvis and Chubby Checker and all that. And I was watching like Chubby Checker dance on the tabletops and stuff and going, well, that's kind of cool.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, musicians, that could be fun, And I just started to go over to my buddy's house a lot and just sit and play his guitar for hours. And just kind of, well, that's cool. And then, the Beatles hit. And I saw that show. I was with Ed Sullivan, and I was like, wow, Beatles. Oh, well, I knew who they were anyway, but how about this? This is how big the Beatles were. There's people who say they're all younger. The Beatles are overrated. No. How about this? Let's say I know who The Weeknd is, right? The Beatles were so big. It was such a tsunami of culture that, wow. And I was like, guys can have long hair. Other than old black and white Indian movies, like all that Audie Murphy stuff or whatever,
right.
That, wow, guys can have long hair, and then, anyway, so how big the Beatles were. They actually, I was in second grade, and I went to Naranka Elementary, whatever, and they actually had a assembly. They were like, hey, everybody, you got to go to the assembly hall. I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on? And they actually had these kids get up on this little stage with black mop wigs, dyed black, and mime Beatles music. I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Okay.
I'm like, really? Like I referenced The Weeknd earlier. Who's going to do that? Hey, everybody in the elementary school, get together. And no, that's how the Beatles weren't overrated. And they're melodies from hell. Nobody wrote those melodies before. And, yeah, they were influenced by the Everly Brothers and so on and all
Chuck
that.
Berry,
And Little Richard,
Little Richard, all of them, right.
Paul McCartney had
Elvis.
that Elvis and all that stuff. But yeah, they were extraordinary. And they still hold up and stand the test of time.
Still, just they're
Just like
timeless.
Beethoven,
They're
like that
timeless.
Pastoral Symphony.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
and
yeah.
all these kinds of musics that are eternal. Sorry, you just can't get rid of them. They're, you
Never
know,
will.
it's like AC/DC. It's
You're not
always
gonna
going to
get
be
rid of them,
Back in
guys.
Black and Highway to Hell and all that wonderful music. You know,
Right.
I wish I would have saw them. I never had the chance.
I
They
never
just-
did either. I only seen them on TV.
You know,
and
but
that
I've
was
watched
good
a million things of them, and they're just great. Angus Young is just so
enough. Oh, you never
Great.
seen AC/DC live?
no.
Oh my God, they're explosive.
No, I've watched tons of videos. Like, oh my God, these guys are great.
Right.
You know,
I've seen them a few times. They're great, and I know they're going through a different kind of alignment, possibly coming back. But the original, with Bon Scott,
yeah, all that
just,
stuff.
Eddie Van Halen said, and when they played, because I was at that show when they played at the Open Coliseum, Eddie said this. He goes, "I gotta follow these motherfuckers." You know what I'm saying?
Not an easy thing to do.
Not an easy thing to do.
You know,
but Eddie did shine, and they
Oh
became
yeah,
best
and
of
then we were
friends.
talking about that earlier before the show. How in '78 I heard the first Van Halen album. I was like, Ted Templeton, wow,
Montrose.
Montrose, Doobie Brothers, holy shit! I remember thinking, okay, this is the future of rock and roll. And then it was kind of weird though for me though, but I didn't. A couple of years went by before it really seemed like the stick. To like the general culture thing. It was about '82. That's kind of about when I discovered like Iron Maiden, great band.
Great band.
I love Peace of Mind. That's
Great.
such a great album.
Right.
And it's a funny thing when you're you love this kind of music, rock and roll, And but I also really like Nat King Cole and Hank Williams
Amen.
and Billie Holiday and Duke Ellington.
Yes.
And all this just great music is great music. And I
Right.
taught a lot. I taught like about 40 students a week for 20 years in all these different music stores in the Bay Area. And then some in El Centro before I moved up here in '80, which was quite an extraordinary time for me.
So do you in your middle passage of life? When was the first band that you came into, and then?
Well, there was one in high school.
Okay.
And we were playing like Steppenwolf and stuff like that, and we didn't do really any gigs. And the first gig I did was somewhere thereabouts after. In the next band, we were doing like Stones.
Yeah, hey,
Pleased to meet you.
He's got, yeah, that's right.
And that kind of stuff, because it was cool and the popular thing, and people liked it, and this party. I always like music that kind of makes you want to party.
Yes.
And it just reminds me, it could segue to a memory. They used to have I don't know if you're familiar within the Dublin area, they used to have this ranch out there off of Tassajara, and they'd have all these huge parties, punk parties, where
Metal
like
parties.
metal parties.
Right.
I used to go to them, and I don't give a damn if you have short hair, long hair. Nobody cares, right?
Right.
But I have a
music.
really good memory of going to one of these parties. And I had my leather on and shit, and I had a bottle of Jim Beam, right? Before I went to the party, and there's these two
I can understand.
Sid Vicious incarnate guys guarding the gate, Mohawks, they're punks, right? And they're like, it's $2 to get in with an attitude, and I went,
You're in.
and we gave gave him the bottle, the guys, gave it to his buddy, gave it back, you can go. That's just like the typical rock and roll thing.
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly. That's a great story.
Yeah,
So
too many of them.
as you went along, and you've performed with a lot of different people.
Yes.
I've
And different genres.
all kinds.
Yeah, I thought if you can play jazz and metal and blues, like Alex Skolnick did that. He was my replacement, actually, at Arinda Music. Doug Doppler, when I first started teaching up here, I got a job at Arinda Music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, you played with some people.
Well, I've just been around for a while. And, if you have a good attitude.
It is a good
and
attitude.
you're just trying to share in the experience of like, I'm not better than you or any of that
Exactly.
nonsense. I'm just trying to have fun with my friends.
That's right. It is nonsense when they start talking about
I've
certain things.
met some famous people with some real attitudes.
I can
I guess I
understand.
could talk about one that, if they passed away, it's okay, right?
Of course.
Albert King, I've met him a few times.
One of the
and he was
greats.
always one of the greats. I've met Freddie too. I missed my chance with BB by that much.
Oh.
I got the phone call, hey, Danny, want to go backstage? You got a free ticket for your bell? I missed the call. And the guy had already left. I'm like, damn. So I never got to meet BB, but Freddie and that was in 74 in San Diego University. That was really good. Got
How
to go
was
backstage. Albert, he was kind of a dick. But he was always nice to the ladies. Here's how the story goes.
Of course, right.
I had a custom-made shirt back then, which nobody really had. I mean, it said Blues Power.
Oh, a song.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Live at the Fillmore album. In fact, I heard that album when it came out, and I was in my room. I used to have my room in high school was all black, the floor, the ceilings, and everything. And I had like styrofoam fluorescent balls and
Like my
all
brother.
the posters of the day. And I made some hands. I still have them. My plaster hands in high school. They were painted fluorescent orange. And they were coming out of the wall and they were faded into black. I had like one of those Testors model life-size brains, spray painted green. And so my room was all cool. We'd have friends over and, party and stuff. And And anyway, Albert King. And then I heard that album when it came out, and I was sleeping one night. The radio really low, And I used to listen to FM radio and
that's the heyday.
Kicking back in my black room, and all of a sudden, Blues Power came on. He's all and it was like, holy shit! It woke me up. I almost fell out of bed. I was like. In fact, Albert King was so significant. There's people like Kirk Hammett, Metallica. I wish I could play the blues that well, but I can't. There's a lot of guys that I know that are like great guitar players, and they admit it. Like,
they can't play blues.
Jeremy Spencer's one. He's like, I really like it, but it's not really my thing. That's cool. I respect that. And music has its way of calling to the heart in different ways. So there's no right or wrong in any of that.
Right.
If you're a rapper, punk, metal, blues, country, whatever,
crossover,
more power to you.
Right.
But the attitude is everything. Life is attitude.
Right.
So,
it's totally is. And be humble.
And be humble.
There you go. Be humble. You have to be humble.
Hey, raise your hand if you're wrong about anything. Humanity. I could go off on a tangent with that. I was in a band called Tangent, so.
How was that band?
That was one of the best bands.
A lot.
Yeah, we had Garrett Edson on drums. I don't know if you know who that is. He was Paul Holgate's drummer. Paul Holgate, Montrose, and Craig Goldie, and all that stuff. All that history.
Get Paul here on the show, man. He always says, when he sees
Mike Holsworth.
When I see Paul, Paul always goes. We were judges at the Battle of the Bands here one time.
Yeah, I did one of those. I got a story for that.
And Paul would always go, "Hey man, you're a rock star, man. What's happening?" I go, "Let's do a show together." Never done a show. Paul, we've never done a show.
He opened for us once in Tangent. When he was in Essence.
Okay.
He tripped out on my sister. My sister is the singer for the band, and it just so happens nothing to do with the fact that she's my sister. She's one of the best fucking rock singers on the planet. She'll.
Yeah,
she is as good as Robert Plant or Janis Joplin. I've had other guy singers go, well, she's got more balls than I do, that are really good singers. They're like, she's incredible. Tangent. But when Dan Pasternak from Rags and Vital Signs, they were part of that Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack. Was the keyboardist. And we went through some members and stuff. And we played like the Stone and the Omni and all those places. Keystones. That was like a lot of fun.
You don't have that anymore.
And John Nady we were talking about had part of who I worked for. He owned some of those, and all that. And
did you play with Jimmy Ziegler?
No.
You are just friends?
Yeah, we're just friends. Never had the chance. It's surprising. This is the first we've ever met. I've known about this man forever. It was just like, people you've known forever that you've hung out, may or may not have hung out with, but you hear about them. Johnny O'Day was another one. Makes me think of Brad Barth. You know him, too.
Yeah, of course.
Brad's such a great engineer. So, down at the Audio Voyage.
Down in
Livermore. Yeah,
I was thinking of the other one over in
all those guys.
Soundstage.
There's a whole thing going on out there.
Right.
Jimmy Arnex, and who's a great guy.
I've got to get in there.
Just wonderful people.
So what are you doing now? Oh wait, before that.
Okay.
Because I know that could be. How many guitars do you own?
70 some.
70 some.
You know, the thing about...
Are they all fabs? Are they all your favorites? Or
well, you know, I used to have a... God, it's a long story in a way.
Go ahead.
I used to have over 100 guitars, and I lost it all in 2008 when I had, you know, the crash came, the 2008 real estate thing.
Yes.
I was one of those guys that lost everything.
Oh, man.
You know, in fact, I sold my entire collection, about 100 grand worth of guitars, to Michael Delcato, the record plant. If you know the record plant, Sausalito.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We were supposed to record in there years ago.
Yeah. He came out to my house with a film crew and filmed our transaction, you know, and that
you might have had some mint guitars.
Oh, it's painful. And I'm trying to save my house, right? And I couldn't refi because I just had the house for 2 years. And then right when it came up time that I had the capability to do that, the whole market crash. You know, the worst part of that, it pains me, was that my mom and my brother died a month apart at the same time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And my girlfriend split up with me for no reason. She told me so. Oh, you know, I don't know. I'm just kind of... Great.
Thanks, babe.
Right. I mean, the story goes on. I could elaborate on it. I'm not going to... But the guitar thing, though, was, yes, I had, like, you know, a 55 Les Paul Jr., 59 Birdland, soft cut, 62 Strat, a 57 Telecaster. I mean, like, a 59... Grouch double anniversary. I mean, it had all these just pristine, immaculate guitars. Some I sold to Brad Gillis. You know, he was a great guy. He took me over.
Brad's a great guy.
Over to his guitar warehouse in Lafayette.
Yeah,
and we spent all day just going through all these guitars. It was, and I'm kind of like, you know, holy crap! Here's the guitar that I used on "Speak of the Devil," Ozzy. You know, it was all out of tune. I played the Crazy Train riff on it anyway. And, gave it back to him. Cool, Brad. Yeah, he was very gracious.
Very gracious. I played with him one time when he was with the Alameda All Stars. You know, just got him because
I'm very aware of them. Yeah.
You know, you said, you know, that's
I think
what
they
I do.
have a gig
sometimes.
coming up.
I think it might have happened and it might have just passed, but
I just saw something in the feed.
It was at the Anchor back there back in the day. That was because I knew Mark Furtado, who was in the band called Silent Partner, great guitar player. We call him Vibrato.
There's Mark McGee, all those guys.
Mark McGee came on our show.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy.
Great guy. He did Melissa.
Yeah.
For
Almonds.
Almond, yeah. And they're doing a thing for that. I think they're doing not Mark, but somebody's doing the Allman Brother tribute. I guess some members are doing. They're doing shuffles of those people.
Were you ever into Les Dudek?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was supposed to get to meet him once, and I missed my ride. It makes me think of another story. I got all these stories, right? Too many for this show. When I was in El Centro back in '73, I joined a band with Richie Valens' cousin. We had a tour bus, and we played like the Yuma Civic Center and all his clubs and everything. But one of the extraordinary, memorable parts of that whole time in my life was we had old guy that used to come into our rehearsals, and we got to kind of know him. His name was Bud Morris. He coined the phrase bimbo. He wrote a song. And he lived off the royalties, bimbo, bimbo, da-da-da-da, right? Yeah. And he used to be roommates with Les Paul back in the 30s. And he was like one of the fourth of the Three Stooges.
Really?
Yes, and he told me the story about Curly. I don't know if I should...
Yeah, go ahead.
Know, it's a funny story. Nobody knows this real-life story about him and Curly of the Three Stooges. They were at the first Stooges premiere back in the 30s. And Bud told me, this is like, oh, shit, you know, this is an old story, but that Curly had a really ugly date that night. And he said they were at the theater, and they were at the first Stooges premiere, and it's in the 30s, and they got recognized. So they had to leave the theater. And at the time, the Stooges, and you can verify this, the Howard brothers, yes, they would travel the states in boxcars on trains. They lived in the boxcars, right?
Interesting.
And when Curly and Bud went back to the boxcar with his ugly date, Mo and Larry wouldn't let him in. And Mo said to Curly, your date's too ugly. Get that ugly cunt out of here. She can't come in. She's too ugly. And they wouldn't let him in. I can imagine how she must have felt.
Story.
That's a real life Stooge story. Real life.
They were
Mo
so
and
good.
Larry going, no, you can't come in.
They're so
She's
good.
too
I don't
ugly.
know why they don't show more. I mean, because they're, quote unquote, you have to be a little different. But
Well, there's all kinds of
they
Hollywood
were
history.
great guys.
I
man.
got to hang
They
out
got-
once with Tony Curtis too.
Tony Curtis was great.
He
man.
was a
Vikings.
really cool guy. You know
The
what I liked
Vikings.
about him? Is he was actually real. I'm trying to always, you meet famous people. I've met a few, but I've always tried to be very cordial. Like I'm meeting, your neighbor. Hey, how you doing? Hey, it's all good. Without being too on him about anything. I'm not going to try to get any money from you. I don't want what's not mine.
Exactly.
I'm just here saying hi to you as one human being to another. It's all good.
Exactly.
Right. But Tony Curtis. I was at this gala event. Shirley Jones of the Partridge Family was there. She was a wonderful lady. We talked about Led Zeppelin.
Oh,
Of all things, as I brought up, and her husband Marty Ingalls took my hat off and wore it around the party and stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool, And I was drinking champagne, and Rich Little was there too. He was kind of a dick. He's not like he was on stage.
Right,
when
right.
he gets off stage, he's a different person.
of course.
I walked up to him. No one was talking to him. I thought to walk up and say hi. I have a suit on. He just went, why are you talking to me? Kind of looked like, okay, cool. Yeah. But Tony Curtis, hey, and I had a camera. And can I get a picture? He's like, oh, sure. And he walked and he pushed somebody away. And he came over and he put like his arm kind of around me, took the picture. I'm all, thank you. And then I kind of, removed myself and just let him be. And then I went out to the other part of the building and where there's this big event. He was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Tony was?
Yeah.
Tony Curtis?
And so I'm just standing there doing the man stance thing. I'm in a suit. You're just like, I always used to get people, do you work here? Because if you have the right look and the attitude, they think you work there. You have people coming up and,
Right.
and he walks by. All of a sudden I hear, I got my back to that part of the building and coming through or, whatever. And I look back, it's Tony Curtis. I just minding my own business. And he walked by me like this. He's like, walked by and went, I'm like, wow.
Tony
Cool.
Curtis, man. The Vikings, Some Like It Hot. He was great.
Oh yeah, that was the other time. The first time I kind of was with him was they had this other event at about a week previously. This is kind of a trippy, weird story that they were giving him this lifetime other award, achievement award, and they were watching Some Like It Hot, right? And I was like, okay, cool. And I stayed for a little while, and I was walking out of the theater. And they have that little alcove, whatever that is, in the theaters. Before you walk into the theater,
Right.
there's a little room there, right? And so, I'm walking back this way, and I come back, and it's dark in the room. You cannot see hardly anything. And here's Tony Curtis. I mean, he's like right here with his wife, who kind of looks like Marilyn Monroe, with his head on her lap, watching Some Like It Hot. And I stood right there. You couldn't see me. I know, I'm going to put my chair back.
Yeah.
And I just... I was trying not to be creepy or too over whatever, but I stood for a moment and just watched the expression on Tony Curtis's face, watching himself, Some Like It Hot, and it was so extraordinary, I can't even put it into words.
It's like surreal.
It was very surreal, wow, he's watching himself, and there's Jack Lemmon and on the screen with him, and must have been going through his mind.
Right, exactly. He was really, he did some good shows, man. I mean, he was really an action figure. He could make people
He was
laugh.
a nice person too. I mean, I know there's the stories of him. It's kind of like with Jerry Lewis or whatever. Like his kids are like kind of estranged or whatever. But yeah, he was nice to me.
That's good, man. That's good.
You know.
So, in your life, obviously you've been around. You got all these little different stories.
Like the ink spots thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a great story to actually have the ink spots, the legendary ink spots in their backyard.
Right.
But that was a time where they couldn't get.
Yeah, you couldn't get around.
Which is just so
That's how
insane
part of
for
America
me.
is, and there's still elements of
Still
that.
a lot of it down south.
Just close your eyes and ears, and
make
it
sense.
doesn't make sense. What skin color are you? It doesn't
Right.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
know,
We're all human.
I actually believe, I almost could go off on a tangent on that, the forces of good and evil exist in the universe. Someone once said, if you ask the universe a question, and if you're open enough to receive the answer and smart enough, that it'll give you the answer. How old are the forces of good and evil in the universe? Trillions of years old. And humans are easy pickings if there's a spiritual realm, which doesn't necessarily mean that you have to believe in God. I think most people that study the whole thing of religion and all that come to the conclusion, if you study all religions, you want to see God, go look in the mirror.
There it is.
But then that means you have to take responsibility for yourself.
Right.
And what you feel and those, voices. I mean, I could think would go on to rob a liquor store, doesn't mean I want to do it. The possibilities of thought, and I think a lot of earthlings don't quite put that all together. Well, I could think this, I guess that's what I feel. No, it goes beyond that.
Most definitely.
I always like that Beatles line, it's only me, it's not my mind. You could.
They were so far ahead of what they were, and how they talked about love, and which we're still doing, listening to it. I love what Danny just did. It shows you how relaxed he is. I love this. He's talking, he got his hands on his head. You know that he likes being on this show.
So, yeah, I do. It's an honor. Not everybody gets that part, but I kind of earned it. I just worked hard. For me, as a musician, I'm kind of like, in a way, a public servant. There's nothing wrong with that. I've gone by the high school, like Livermore High, and I got dropped off there once because my lady had some business. I'm like, well, shit, I'm hanging out by the 7-Eleven there off of Stanley. I'm going, I'm going to make myself useful. I went down to the creek, and there was a shopping cart there, and I got the shopping cart and filled it with all the trash and took it back to the 7-Eleven. And just as I was taking it back, the guy came out of the store and goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I just happened to be here. I thought I'd clean out the stream and take all the trash and put it in your dumpster." And he was like,
"You're an environmentalist."
Okay, like people do that, although some people it'll upset them.
No, I think that was a wise move.
How about there's another similar story. I don't know how much time we got, but having in San Diego when I lived there, I lived in a house. It was a really nice house up on a hill type thing, and with a canyon, and way across the canyon there was this dead end street, right? And there was there was a lot there. There was no houses or anything, but there was all this trash. It was there. So, but check this out. I went way across the canyon one day with some trash bags. I thought, well, I'll just clean it up. And so I'm picking up trash, and there's nobody around, and I'm kind of minding my own business, obviously. Just picking up trash, putting it in the bag, and all of a sudden this guy shows up. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I just live across the way over there. It's got a really nice view, and I thought he'd come over and pick up the trash." He goes, "What's in the bag?" I'm like, "Trash." And then I just ignored him, and I just kept going, and I'm kind of like, whatever. And then all of a sudden, there's like 5 guys. "What are you doing?" And they're serious. I'm like, "Well, shit, I'm picking up trash. I'm just trying to da-da-da." And they're all, "What's in the bag?" And I'm like, "Let's look, trash." And then, what, and they kept on. I was just like, "Look," and I emptied the bag of trash out, and they're all, "You better go." And then I said, like, "Okay." And then it was going back down the canyon. They started throwing rocks at me.
Sad.
Yeah.
It is sad. Some people don't. I want to turn.
Like, really?
I want to turn the page a little bit because you got tremendous. So what is a present day, because we only got a few more minutes. So what is Danny Means doing right now musically? I know you're busy, but what are you doing right now?
Well, currently I have a tentative project with... you've heard of the band Malo? The bass player from that band. He played with Ronnie Montrose and Merle Sanders. He was my student. One of my students.
Really?
I've had some of my students do pretty well. Yeah, he sometimes would call me, "Hey, we're in Boston. We're doing an arena show." I'm like, "I'm at home." Go on. Okay.
I taught you.
Great. But he's been calling me, and we have a tentative thing going on. Actually, with the drummer too, Juan Carlos Miller is one of my drummers. Anyway, he's played with he's with Chaka Khan right now, and he's played with Parliament and Funkadelic, and he was in a band with Michael Jackson's keyboard player Ronnie Rancifer and Lenny Williams from Tower of Power, and he's a great drummer. He's a funky guy, and so he he knows, but we still haven't been getting together. I'm trying to finish some of these other projects. In fact, I still have glue on my hands from working on that staircase. I rebuilt the staircase yesterday. Yeah, I'm not lazy. I rebuilt the engine in my car.
Interesting. So you're a man really of many great gifts that you have, like you were just talking earlier. I think we were talking about. I think what you have a big spirit, and most importantly, you have a big heart. You love your heart.
Oh yes, absolutely.
You have a big
like
spirit.
me. You know, I'd hang out with me if I didn't know me. You know, yeah. Would you marry yourself? You can ask that people.
That question was posed just recently
and most people say no. What a shame. Really?
It is a shame.
Yeah, can't you just shut up and maybe just humble yourself? And,
It is all about humble. So you're doing that. And you're writing the music. You do a lot of instrumentals. You said.
Well, I do a lot. I do the lyrics and all that, and I have like a whole backlog of stuff I haven't even finished. I've got like more than a few hours worth of all original music that I'm proud of. It's really easy to slap together a song and to say this is a song, but I kind of try to. Formulate and call my musical influences to make it seem like there's hopefully some originality there somewhere. I have like all kinds of songs that I've done that some of them, like, wow. I've had people like reactions. Like once I wrote a song with a good friend of mine, John Young, who I still know, a guy from junior high, who's worked with some famous people, Patrick Stewart, Ricardo Montalban, Ian Anderson, John Anderson of Yes, and all his people.
Anderson of
and
Yes.
we wrote a song in high school about the Bible and UFOs because we were reading Von Daniken and everything.
Oh yes.
Back in high school, even we were, listening to Sabbath and Frank Zappa and all that stuff.
Zappa was great.
So we thought we'd try to like write a song, and I swear John and I invented sci-fi metal. We did. And we wrote the song called Consider This, which we later played at a big theater at a church in San Diego and got banned from playing that song.
Was it because it was sold out, or
no? It was just because
so different?
It was so different. Because we were playing the church music as they were accustomed to having it, very sedate and nice background. And we're on this it was a great gig though for that fact that we shocked the shit out of them. They were like, you have time for one more, and we just looked at each other. And we went into the song Consider This, which is kind of funny. It starts out, when we wrote it, we figured if we started out with a fast country thing, and then it goes into the metal thing. And then it keeps getting progressively heavier and heavier and heavier. And then
they were saying you got to leave church.
Yeah, well, we finished the song. There was a bunch of old people there. It was a big theater. They were like, "Oh, what just happened?" A bunch of kids were like, "Yeah!" And then all that stuff. And then the minister guy came over to me. We're on this big, huge stage. He goes, "Well, you guys can never play here again." I'm like, "Yeah, we know."
So
there was nothing vulgar in it.
I understand. So on that note, you wanted to give a shout out to some people. You got a little piece of paper?
Yeah, I have a little piece of paper somewhere here that there was a few people that I don't know. If you had your chance, maybe you would. It's in one of these pockets.
I knew I should have kept it.
Yeah, you should have kept it. Wait a minute, here it is. It's all tasseled up.
So if you want to do that, I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out thanking Danny for letting me talk to Sugar Pie Santos. We're going to be doing an interview with her on the phone, and that's in the future. But Danny, go ahead and give out a shout out.
Yeah, real quick with my friend Tumbleweed. Yeah, he was a great harmonica. Bill Xavier at BC Rich Guitars. I got Sugar on here. Yeah, we talked about Sugar just now. Sugar Pie DeSanto. She's very worthwhile to check out. She was one of Muddy Waters' singers, and with the All-Star Band is just incredible. If you can get a chance to go watch some of the YouTube of her with Willie Dixon and
all the greats,
Sonny Boy Williamson and Howlin' Wolf and his All-Star Band. Yeah, Sugar's a worthwhile person to look at, check into. Yeah, she's a pretty close friend of mine. Scott Eckhart, I've done some music with him.
Great guy.
Sleaze, Sleaze Smith. Yeah, he's a great guy. Really cool person. Sherry Taylor, singer. Herb Burns, of course, a bandmate of mine. Birdleg, he's a blues harp player, Chicago. He's toured the world and been on the cover of blues, magazines out of there. And Drew Harrison, Sun Kings. I was in a
course,
band.
yeah.
We used to live together.
Oh, the Sun Kings are great.
Yeah.
Sun Kings. Got to keep moving.
Yeah, got to keep moving. Craig Lucero, he's a cool guy. Hatriot, the band, Steve Sousa's Zetro of Exodus, his band. They used to practice at my ranch. The house caught on fire one night. That was another story. Ray Cepeda, guitarist. Steve Rossman, Stevie Keys.
Just give me their names because we're moving.
The band Glory, Jerry Rainey, my old guitar teacher. And that's about it.
Well, that's great. Is that your...
Yeah, that's my phone. It's that time.
Okay.
Here, let me get rid of that.
So
Sorry.
that was excellent that you gave all those tributes and mentioned all those names. There's some great names, great musicians.
Yeah, Scotty
named.
London, there was a bunch.
Scotty London, Robbie Dunbar.
He's been at my house. We've hung out.
You
and
did
sold him a
that?
guitar. He's a great guy.
So
player.
you know what, Danny, I want you to come back again.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do this, but right now, as we normally do, we give out a shout of love to people. And we want to thank Danny Means for being here.
Thanks.
God bless you all,
God
and
bless.
we'll see you again. Peace and love.
Thank you. Peace and love. Pleasure, sir. Thank you so
Thank you so much
for having me.
Yes.